great, making cuts, catching passes for Patrick Mahomes, and at one point, he had a high step like Deion Sanders and let out a woo! Like Ric Flair, so he was feeling it. And look, this Jags defense has talked all week about how do we control Kelsey, particularly when Patrick Mahomes escapes out of the pocket. That's when he's destroyed teams in the past. Their goal is to double team him, press him, get that timing off early. And as far as Chris Jones, he will be good to go as well. The one thing to watch is his conditioning. They want to keep him around the 30-play mark so he doesn't get hurt. But both of those guys are going to have a huge impact today.
All right, and Chiefs also have to find a way to get into the end zone, hold on to the football, maybe run the ball.
Yeah, there's that part. Look, the last time these guys played, the Chiefs ran the ball. Isaiah Pacheco had close to 100 yards, and just overall, they were closer to 150 rushing yards when they met in that playoff game. We saw what Kansas City can do when they decide to dig their heels in. That guy right there, Travis Kelce, Cynthia, is going to get a lot of the attention from the Jags defense. It's going to open up some running lanes, and the Jags have shown they're not necessarily a great run-stuffing defense. So if they can get the play action going and get the ball to El Travador and some of the other wide receivers that they can hang on to. El Travador, yes, he's very good
that day in Kansas City.
Then absolutely this offense is going to get back on track.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to have like 13 catches, would be my guess.
13?
Yeah, just a number that came to me out of nowhere, 13. But look, Chris Jones being back, the interesting part, you talk about the conditioning with those 30 snaps. If you look where Chris Jones was massively impactful last season, it was in the fourth quarter. He had 8 more pressures than next closest defensive tackle in fourth quarters of games last season. So if you want to keep him on that pitch count, if you will, let's backload it, because that O-line for the Jags, especially without Cam Robinson for a few more weeks, that's going to be an area of concern, because we see what happens when Trevor Lawrence gets play action going, good things. When it doesn't get going, not so good things. So to me, it'll be when they strategically use Jones that will absolutely dictate the day for Trevor Lawrence.
And Cynthia, one thing I want to add is we talked a lot about the Jaguars and Calvin Ridley after that big day last week. Keep an eye on Christian Kirk for a big game. He had 1 catch last week, and I'm told Jaguars offensive coordinator Press Taylor called Kirk this week apologizing, essentially saying, we're going to get you more opportunities. He thrives against man coverage. The Chiefs play plenty of that today. Press Taylor's going to get him the ball. Kirk told me this week, I'm not angry, I'm not frustrated. Every guy is going to have their day. Today might just be Kirk's.
All right, that's Travis Kelce, who looks fired up there behind Cam Wolf. By the way, I'll say it again. No defending Super Bowl champion has opened 0-2 the following year since 1999 when John Elway retired and the Broncos stumbled out of the gate. I said 1999, not 1989. As Travis Kelce warms up.
It's never going to get old for me.
It's
never going to get old for me.
Thank you, Cam.
Taylor Swift, just
stay away from the thunderstorms if they show up a little bit later. Cam Wolf live in Jacksonville, everybody.
Uh-oh.
That is live in Cincinnati.
Oh, boy.
Joe Burrow is back in the building. Can the Bengals get back in the win column? Feel like they're a cornered tiger this week, a Bengal tiger, if you will, with the Ravens coming to town. We are live there to preview this huge AFC North showdown. Coming up on NFL Game Day Preview.
AFC North filled with young, talented quarterbacks.
Roll up, it's time for the show. Forget everything that you wrote up. You ain't seen nothing like this. It's impossible to resist. Just sit back and enjoy the view. Out with the old, in with the new. Look forward, there's no looking back. You gotta be on the right track.
We're not getting stopped no more, Joe. We've been here, man. Y'all know what's up. Time to do it again. Hey, we gotta put a punch on this board. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing like this.
Dropped it perfectly.
You ain't seen nothing like this.
Crowd is getting fired up now.
You ain't seen nothing like this.
How about them Bengals?
You ain't seen nothing. You ain't seen nothing.
Come on, let's go.
Lamar Jackson on the field in Cincinnati Paycor Stadium. If Zay Flowers goes off today, my friend said it might be Zaycor Stadium today. Big AFC North matchup. Ravens-Bengals. Man, the Ravens after 1 week, and stop me if you have heard this before on NFL Game Day Preview, are really all kinds of banged up live in Cincinnati with that long list of injuries. James Palmer, how bad is it?
I've been on this sideline for a few hours, and you see the Ravens are right here next to me. I'll tell you, talking to the right people, there are major concerns. And the biggest one, really, we know how good Ronnie Staley is at the left tackle. He's out. It looks to be that center spot. Tyler Linderbaum, one of the better centers in football, being out in this game. That is a major concern, I'm told, for the Baltimore Ravens. DJ Reader, the nose tackle for Cincinnati, has been good for a very long time. Maybe one of the more underrated defensive linemen in football. They are concerned about this run game and also this passing game that this offense has morphed into, Andrew, working if there's pressure coming up through the middle. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we know that they're without pretty much their two best players in the secondary, in Marcus Williams, their safety, who really runs all the communication back there, and Marlon Humphreys, their number one corner. I will tell you this. I talked to Tyler Boyd this week, and Boyd told me with both of those guys out, we know this secondary can't do some of the things that they would like to do to us, and there's things they cannot do, Andrew. So that's something Cincinnati would like to take advantage of. One small injury at the end I'd like to throw in here. It's nothing small. It's about Joe Burrow. It was interesting watching him pregame, really trying to get that calf loose. He's playing. It was uncomfortable in week 1. It looks like he's still trying to get comfortable with it here as he gets ready for week 2.
And it also looked last week as if he was almost guiding the football. Granted, horrible conditions, horrible weather, downpour. It was raining sideways in Cleveland. It's sunny there today, Steve, in Cincinnati. You think this is his get-well game. And you have to think it is as well when you hear all those injuries in the second.
Yeah, I mean, look, and then what James said about Tyler Boyd saying, hey, with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams out, we know there's some things they can exploit. That comes from game study. That comes from tendency watching. So JP was right on that. I mean, that's great information right there, kind of opening up some things in the secondary. So I would think there's going to be a ton of big play opportunities here for Cincinnati. That's something that we did not see at any point really in week 1. That's something they're very capable of doing. And that guy, Joe Burrow, after that dud that happened in week 1, Cynthia, this is something where we think he's really going to have opportunities to get things going, especially if they can get Joe Mixon going on the ground instead of some play action as well.
It seems like that will be the case on offense. Now, I do want to point out, low-key last year, the duo that had the highest pressure percentage, Sam and Trey.
There you go.
And that is a big deal when you're looking at no left tackle with the Ravens. That's going to be a really big, tall task to handle. And obviously getting Mark Andrews is really helpful, but this is still an offense that's trying to find their chemistry together. It's not like they have this long history with Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers. So while they looked great week 1, it's a little bit scary knowing that you still got Lou Anarumo back there, and the fact that they had a higher scoring game last week, a lot of that happened at the very last minute after they went for it on 4th down and they had great field position in Cleveland. That whole thing was with the weather was kind of strange. So don't let that score fool you. This is still a really staunch defense.
I'll tell you this, Cynthia, talking to people on this offensive staff, they're very open with saying Lamar Jackson's not comfortable yet in this offense. Remember, he did not play in the preseason. Last week was the first time we were able to see him operate in this Todd Monken offense that is going to be predicated off the pass with Zay Flowers, who they think the absolute world of, and Odell Beckham Jr. and company. Having Mark Andrews back, as you touched on, they believe will make Lamar a little more comfortable with so many other aspects of this offense that are a little uncertain, that they're trying to make sure they can kind of start clicking with all of them. They know this is going to take some time. Obviously, they wanted to happen sooner rather than later, but they are very clear that Lamar Jackson is not 100% comfortable within this offense right now.
Yeah, JP, with those injuries, I expect Lamar Jackson to be rolling out an awful lot, doing some stuff to Andrews. I mean, that's just got to happen because they just don't have the protection, like you said. That's kind of the muscle memory, especially with Lamar and Mark Andrews.
Bengals won 2 out of 3 when they met last year. Yes, there was a third meeting in the postseason. Lamar Jackson obviously did not see that game. Actually, he didn't even see the final play where Sam Hubbard's still running the other way.
Hey, baby.
He said he went to the bathroom and missed the Tyler Huntley fumble. James Palmer live there, Cincinnati.
You are rolling, brother.
Incredible detail.
Rivalry renewed. He said it this week. He said he went down the hall, came back, and Sam Hubbard's running the other way. True story. Hey, guys, you're not going to get details like that anywhere else. I'm just telling you right now. How about this detail? Jimmy Garoppolo, with Josh McDaniels calling plays 3-0 lifetime. 2 in New England when Brady was hurt in 2016, and then 1 last week. The Raiders spent the week in West Virginia before heading to Buffalo, where we now find Stacey Dales. Hi there, Stacey. Great to see you. Let's focus on the other quarterback, Josh Allen, who was really hard on himself this week. Really, really hard. And the same goes for Monday night after they lost to the Jets. When I mess up, we lose. How do they rewire him to mess up less?
Well, I think you get him back to the basics of what they want to do in this offense. Hello, everybody, and Andrew. And that's your checkdowns, your underneath route, basically. If you go back and you watch that Jets loss on Monday Night Football, which a lot of us did, Josh Allen, so often he wants that home run. I got a wave of Bills, if you guys can hear it, coming over here and saying hello to the crowd. He wants that home run hit, right? And so he threw into multiple coverage situations on multiple occasions, which led to those 4 turnovers. And the fact is, nobody has more giveaways in the NFL, 84 of them since 2018 when he was a rookie with the Buffalo Bills. So to get him to change those things is to get him to be more disciplined. And I think he's going to approach this thing more disciplined against these Raiders today. He has vowed this week to play smarter football. And again, not taking so many deep shots where there's possible 50-50, you're going to get it or you're not, and instead really looking at the personnel that he has in the underneath game, because you know everybody's going to try to contain him with those legs and with that big arm.
Sure, and look, it's a no-brainer here for all of us. Hey, when he plays well, they win. When he doesn't, they lose. Let's put the stat on the screen here. When Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over, Steve White, the Bills are 8-0 of late, averaging 32 points a game.
Well, look, and that could be 9-0 today, and it's not because he's not going to be under duress, right? Max Crosby, the Raiders defensive end, I think he's one of the top 3 or 4 best defensive players in the NFL. He is going to be in Josh Allen's grill because that's what Max Crosby does. The thing is, Max Crosby is playing 1-on-11, Stacey, because the Raiders don't take the ball away. They had 13 takeaways last year. That's last in the NFL. Just to point out, the Cowboys had 16 interceptions alone last year. So the fact that the Raiders don't take the ball away, that's a good time for Josh Allen, Stace. And the fact of him bouncing back because they're playing a defense, again, with one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, but he does not have anybody else who's going to help him get a scoop and score or to get an interception.
When you look at last week's game against the Jets, it did look like he got sacked a lot. However, when you go back to see the pressures, it wasn't even that many pressures. The sack rate so it's like when they got through, it was massive, if not, and it's the right side of the line that I'm really worried about. So where does Max Crosby line up? Well, if they're going to put him on, that right, the left, the defensive left, the offensive right. So it's going to be interesting to see, but that is actually the side where when Josh Allen rolls out, you are fine. He'll roll to his left. He is totally fine with that. So when I'm looking at Josh Allen and the fact that they now specifically got Dalton Kincaid for that underneath game, that was the whole reason that they went out and drafted him. They moved up in the draft to get Dalton Kincaid so that they had the underneath guy, because when he was doing his best, it was when Cole Beasley was great on 3rd down, and they haven't had that in 2 seasons. You saw those interception numbers go up. I think that Ken Dorsey says, let's calm this down. Let's get a nice, James Cook situation, Dalton Kincaid. Use the easier stuff. Don't force Stephon Diggs to a hitch route if it's not there.
Guys, I would just say this, and maybe the best defense for the Raiders here today is how good their offense can be with Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh Jacobs. They want a better run game than we saw in their Denver win last week on the road. So if they can, time of possession is a real thing, and if they can maintain the football a little bit more and keep that defense off the field, keep them fresh against Josh Allen. But I expect to see an entirely different Bills team. Talking to folks here today, again, I'll leave you with this phrase. If you're Josh Allen, do not get bored in taking what the defense gives you. One of the executives of the team told me that this week. And again, it's very simple. Don't get bored playing the long game. And you guys know what the long game is: possessing the football, marching down the field, and really only taking those deep shots when they truly present themselves based upon the coverage.
Now that Sean McDermott is calling the defense, it's going to be interesting. Like you said, Stacey, that offense is, and Devontae Adams, he kind of does the thing that they are worst at guarding against on the defense. So let's see if Sean McDermott has some adjustments that look a little bit different, especially not only rolling out nickel. Like, we got it. They played all nickel last year. Perhaps it'll be different this year. I'm really interested in the test that Sean McDermott gets today.
Hey, they want to go all nickel? Josh Jacobs can eat. Only 48 yards rushing last week. Only 2.5 yards a pop, which was at 2.5 yards a pop. His worst performance in his career. Stacey Dales live there in Buffalo. Big one to the AFC. Thank you, Dales. Hey, let's talk fantasy. You are starting Patrick Mahomes, right?
Start.
Yes? Okay. Coming up next, Michael Florio is here. There is a big-name quarterback that he says you must sit down today. It's not Mahomes.
Ooh.
We'll tell you who it is next on NFL Game Day Preview. NFL Game Day Preview, everybody. If you're watching us online, and I have no doubt that you are, you're probably over on the Twitter as well, checking out some of these images that the teams are putting out. We're in Jacksonville. We are in Tampa as well, where Justin Fields and the Bears are trying to get a win. Somewhere on here, you're eventually going to see Derrick Henry wearing a giant sombrero. Felicitaciones for wearing the giant sombrero, Derrick Henry. It's going to be there, I promise. I promise if you check out NFL Twitter, Derrick Henry is wearing a giant sombrero. Welcome back to NFL Game Day Preview. My name is Andrew Siciliano. This right here is Michael Florio from NFL Fantasy Live and from the Fantasy Show here on the NFL channel. Great to see you. Happy week 2.
Happy week 2.
Let's go through some of our must-starts. Let's start, obviously, with the quarterbacks. Give me your must-start, the guy that I have to have in my lineup.
This might seem a little spicy to some, but I think Anthony Richardson is already a must-start.
A must-start for Anthony Richardson.
A must-start fantasy quarterback. Last week, he scored 20 fantasy points. He led the Colts in rushing. He was their goal line runner, scored the rushing touchdown, almost had a second one. If it wasn't late in the game, I think he would have. But then the matchup. The Texans have allowed the most rushing yards since last season, and specifically the most on outside runs. Anthony Richardson last week led the Colts in those rushing attempts. I think he's going to have an opportunity for a big play or two. My bold prediction this week, he runs for 150 yards today.
Wait, you have Anthony Richardson running for 150 yards. Okay, that's bold. What's also bold is your must-start running back plays for the Buffalo Bills.
Yep. James Cook. I think James Cook is someone that you want in your fantasy lineup this week and every week moving forward. And the thing is, people always say the Bills running backs can't be good in fantasy. It's really because Devin Singletary never took advantage of the workload. But last week, James Cook played 60% of the snaps. He had 12 of the 15 running back carries, 6 targets, nearly had a touchdown. And the Raiders are a great matchup, not only for running backs altogether, but for pass-catching running backs. They've allowed the 3rd most catches to running backs since last season, including 10 last week. I think this is a big James Cook
I love how you just blamed the Bills' inability to run the football since Josh Allen was drafted 7th overall in 2018, all on Devin Singletary.
He got the volume the last couple of years.
Okay.
Just couldn't do a whole lot.
So we have Anthony Richardson, we have James Cook, and your must-start wide receiver is?
Happy Mike Williams Day, everyone. I think Mike Williams from the Chargers is going to go off today and make up for a down week 1. The thing is, the Titans, they're very good against the run, but they are the absolute best matchup for wide receivers. They've allowed the most yards and fantasy points to the position since last year and the 2nd most touchdowns, but they've allowed by far the most yards and touchdowns on deep passes. And we saw Chris Olave and the Saints be able to exploit that last week. I think Justin Herbert, Mike Williams are going to take some shots downfield. I think he has a big fantasy day.
We went to break teasing the quarterback, the big name quarterback, that Florio says you need to bench today. I don't have a drum roll. We didn't pay enough for it. But the quarterback that you say cannot be in your lineup today is?
He wears one of these on his helmet.
Really?
You want to sit Dak Prescott today against the New York Jets. Look, everyone watched Monday Night Football. It was the most anticipated game of week 1. You saw what this Jets defense was able to do to Josh Allen and how difficult they made life for him. They could generate pressure without blitzing. They have one of the best secondaries in football, but they also have one of the best defenses on their end of the ball as well. I don't know if Zach Wilson's going to be able to move the ball a whole bunch against the Dallas Cowboys defense, which means Dak may not be asked to do a whole lot, just like last week when he got you like 7 fantasy points.
No Brandon Cooks today. He's expected to be inactive for the Dallas Cowboys. Regardless, Florio says bench Dak Prescott, who has been held to under 150 yards in each of his last 2 home games. I see what you're thinking. Michael Florio from the Fantasy Show here on the NFL channel 5 days a week. Find it, look it up, and Florio's sticking around to make some picks as well. You're sticking around as well as we continue on NFL Game Day preview. Coming up, we are heading to Ford Field. I don't see anyone wearing a blue ski mask. Anyone wearing a ski mask? No. No one's been robbing Jared Goff, though. He's not throwing picks. We're on the field. Lions Seahawks straight ahead.
the snap. Turns, gives to Montgomery over the left side. He dunks. Down low, gets the first down. It is going to be 1st and 10 Lions. The Chiefs have burned their final timeout. That is big-time stuff.
I told you guys we're built for this. We can overcome anything. As long as you guys just hang with it. We got a ton to clean up when we get back. But until then, enjoy this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of you guys. Break it down.
Hey, remember this feeling that wasn't perfect. We stick together. We are built for this, boys. We are built for this. 2-0 next. Let's go. Win on 3. 1, 2, 3. Win!
Love Dan Campbell.
Yeah, brother.
You know, Dan Campbell did tell me off air, I'll say it on air now, during Inside Training Camp Live, he turned down a chance to get in the ring when the WWE came to Detroit this year. Jared Goff, oh, by the way, has gone 359 consecutive passes without an interception. That's good. You know what's awesome? Barry Sanders finally got the statue outside Ford Field today. How cool is that? Only time you ever caught Barry Sanders standing still. Pretty cool. It's the Lions, it's the Seahawks, everybody inside Ford Field. Now it's Tom Pelissero.
Thanks, Andrew. Lions fever was gripping Detroit even before they knocked off the Chiefs in the season opener. Season ticket memberships sold out for the first time in Ford Field history. This game, the home opener against the Seahawks, a sellout. In fact, the Lions made available standing room only tickets as well, so they'll be well over 1,000 over the normal capacity for this game. It'll be a challenging environment for a Seahawks offensive line that will be playing without both its starting tackles. I would imagine you're going to see a lot of chipping and extra help to keep Aiden Hutchinson and company from wrecking this game. A boost for the Seahawks. Number 5 overall pick Devin Witherspoon makes his NFL debut. My understanding is he's going to start on the outside. Pete Carroll said he's fired up. That guy is a fireball. For the Lions, keep an eye on the backfield today. I would anticipate you're going to see more of their rookie first-round draft pick, Jahmyr Gibbs. Last week against the Chiefs, there was a lot of blitzing. They had to keep him in pass protection. Maybe they can get him out in the routes a little bit more against Seattle. But also, let's be clear, David Montgomery, still the lead horse in that backfield. Andrew?
Chiefs, where Kansas City didn't have Chris Jones in the middle of that D-line. Back with Florio and back with Steve White. I'm Andrew Siciliano. Florio, you think this is a bounce-back game for the Seahawks offensively, despite the fact that, as Tom just said, they are without both starting offensive tackles?
Yeah, the Lions defense has struggled against receivers since the start of last season, specifically against slot receivers, and with the Seattle Seahawks O-line so banged up, I'm expecting a lot of quick passes. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to make a big impact in this one. He is a sleeper for fantasy, but I think this is a get-right spot for all of their receivers because Tyler Lockett could make a big impact from the slot as well.
Mike, I'm 100% with you. I think we're going to see the quick passing game. Tyler Lockett is going to be huge in here. You're seeing Geno Smith, the, oh my God, Aaron Donald's in my face, Geno Smith. So he's got to have a better game. But also the run game, they've got to control it. They cannot let this Detroit offense get on track like it can and score a lot. So they've got to control the clock. So I expect to see this running game with Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker to be a big part of it, what they can do, at least with that banged up OL.
We have not seen here these Lions in 10 days since they went to Kansas City. Let's not forget here that since the midway point of last season, only the 49ers have won more games than the Detroit Lions. All right, Niners have 10, the Lions have 9. And they were facing a Seahawks team that if you take away those final 9 yards for Zach Charbonnet on the final play from scrimmage, the Seahawks had 3 second-half yards last week.
Good.
3. Okay, let's continue here on NFL Game Day Preview. Time now for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's focus on one of the late games. There are 4 of them across the street from us. The Rams and the 49ers, over under 45.5, with the 49ers about a touchdown favorite here. If you're confident here, and we're talking about a same-day parlay available now on DraftKings, if you like McCaffrey with a touchdown in his 11th straight game, including the playoffs, you could do this same game parlay. Head over right now to DraftKings.com and get into the action. Who scores, Steve White? If you want to look at this game, give me a name at SoFi later.
George Kittle, the tight end for the 49ers. Look, the Rams done a pretty good job against him the last few times they've played. But since Brock Purdy has become quarterback last October, Kittle's got 10 touchdowns. That's 10 starts for Purdy, 10 touchdowns for Kittle. This is going to be, I think, a big connection in front of a heavy 49ers crowd at SoFi Stadium.
If you are planning at home, by the way, the Niners are wearing red, something they often do not do here when they are on the road in LA. And yes, there will be a lot of Niner fans. For Who Scores, Florio, you're going with the game in the AFC East.
Yeah, the Dolphins and the Patriots. And I could have took the easy route and said Tyreek Hill, but I think Hunter Henry is going to score a touchdown today.
He did last week.
He caught one last week. He was the top fantasy tight end last week. But the Dolphins have allowed the second most touchdowns to tight ends since the start of last season, including one last week. And I think this is going to be a spot where the Patriots are needing to put up points to keep up with Tua, Tyreek, and that big Dolphins passing attack, which means more throws in the second half. I think Hunter Henry finds pay dirt and has a good fantasy game as well.
Mac Jones threw it over 50 times last week. 50. That's not good for the Patriots, but it is good if you're playing, potentially Hunter Henry.
Tight end day.
Just saying. And that's Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Everybody, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And during Week 2, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Chris Jones wanted the crown of highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL. Didn't happen. Can I interest you in some incentives? Can I interest you in going back live to Jacksonville coming up shortly? The Chiefs are on the field. Jones is in uniform. We are 20 minutes away from kickoff.
Motion goes Robinson. They're going to throw it to Bijan out in space, and he made the first guy miss. He'll get to the 5 and score. Holy smokes. My heavens. Frankie Luvu is on the poster for Bijan Robinson's first touchdown.
I mean, that was a thing of beauty last week. These uniforms also a thing of beauty. Look at that, a Mercedes-Benz.
Steve Bartkowski era.
There, the throwbacks as we get ready for the Falcons and the Packers in Atlanta, week number 2. And we are, he checks the clock, roughly 17 minutes away from kickoff. Thank you for watching NFL Game Day Preview. That is Steve Weich. My name is Andrew Siciliano. I'm going to age myself here. Kids, look up Eric Metcalf as a rookie in 1989. Also a first-round pick, also a running back, also went to Texas like Bijan Robinson. His first career NFL touchdown was nearly identical to that play. As for the game today, believe it or not, Jordan Love and Desmond Ridder are the 2 highest-rated quarterbacks in the NFL through 2 weeks, if you're buying that.
Yeah, I mean, efficiency is, you know, completions, this and that, but yardage totals, at least when it comes to Desmond Ridder, don't quite make it seem like he might
118 last week.
He might be efficient, but not necessarily hyper-effective. There he is, and I think it's Bijan, like as in Freese Robinson, not Bijan. I think that was the correct pronunciation. Not positive. We can check on that. But look, Desmond Ridder, the quarterback's got to be a little bit, not necessarily efficient. He's got to be a little more explosive in a game like this because the Packers and Jordan Love, they could put up some points, right? We saw last week. This is going to be a very physical game, but I think Desmond Ridder pushing the ball downfield like he does right there, intermediate to some, you know, long range, and he's got to get it. Drake London, the number 8 overall pick, and Kyle Pitts, number 4 overall pick, 2 of the last 3 draft picks. You got to get the ball to them downfield because last week in the opener, 3 targets, only 2 catches. Those are both by Pitts. Drake London didn't have 1. They've got to open up the offense a little bit. We know Atlanta is a run-first identity. Use the run to set up the big play because some opportunities are going to be there, and this is going to be on Desmond Ridder and the scheming of this to push the ball down the field.
Your thing about touches here, 34 of the 38 offensive touches for Falcons skill players week 1 went to Robinson and Algier.
Right.
Went to the 2 running backs. There were 4 touches for someone other than the running backs last week for the Falcons. That one week 1, I know it's how Arthur Smith wants to play. That is not going to cut it. The Packers are trying to win back-to-back games to open the season, go 2-0 on the road for the first time ever. Like ever. Like 104 years, ever. All right, let's get on the field and let's get to Cincinnati Paycor Stadium. Big one of the AFC North today, Steve. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson, they're all kind of banged up. No Ronnie Stanley, no Tyler Linderbaum today. You have no Marcus Williams and Marlon Humphrey in the secondary. You know as well that J.K. Dobbins is out for the year. This is seemingly the storyline for them every year, and today they're in Cincinnati to face a Bengals team that was just flat out embarrassed last week.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a game where can the Ravens offense, we've been hearing all offseason, oh, they got Todd Monken, new OC, they're going to open up this Ravens offense. Well, right now they're coming to this with a butter knife, right? This is going to be hard. Lamar Jackson, a lot's going to be on him, probably on his legs to make things happen because they're just so shorthanded.
They are very shorthanded. That is a live look at Paycor Stadium. This is a live look as well at Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. Josh Allen and the Bills facing the Raiders, who come in at 1-0. It's a very easy storyline here. Josh Allen, don't turn the ball over.
And I think this is a great opponent for him to do that because the Raiders don't take the ball away. I mean, 13 takeaways all last year. Now, Max Crosby is going to be in Josh Allen's face. And, Andrew, we did the game Monday night. He got the yips at certain points of that game. He has got to stay poised and play within himself for Buffalo to bounce back.
Josh Allen had 4 turnovers week 1, and they still had a shot to win that game in overtime in New York. Time for some quick picks as we get the first meeting between the 2nd overall pick, C.J. Stroud, who is active, and he is going today for the Texans, and the 4th overall pick, and that is Anthony Richardson. They are in Houston. I'm going with the Texans. Cynthia, who is back on game day morning, is going with the Texans. You're going with the Colts.
Well, with the Colts. I think Anthony Richardson's going to be too much because he has to be. He's got to run it because they don't have Jonathan Taylor in their backfield, and he's going to make some plays with his arm. We saw that last week. More than just splash plays. He showed a lot of poise. I think he's going to continue to build on that against a defense that's still finding its way.
Just think, when these 2 teams met last September, it was Matt Ryan against Davis Mills, and they tied. Things have changed a little bit.
Way to sell the game, Andrew. Way to sell that one.
Well, no, I am excited. We got the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th overall pick on the field today. Last year was last year. Last year was ugly.
There it is.
Here is Derrick Henry. Yes, with a sombrero. That is fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Derrick Henry, the best dressed hands down, of anyone today in the National Football League as they get ready for the Titans and the Chargers. That game is in Nashville. Checking my picks here. Cynthia goes Tennessee. I'm taking the Chargers. You like the Chargers?
I'm going with the Chargers as well. I mean, yeah, they don't have Austin Eckler. We saw Josh Kelly do pretty well last week. They're not going to run the ball very much. They're going to throw it all over the place. I think the Chargers scored too many points. That's been the issue for Tennessee, is getting into the end zone. Chargers going to outscore.
And the Chargers somehow found a way to lose last week despite running for 200 yards. You know how hard that is? They ran for 200 yards and they still lost. They're the better team, however, today in Tennessee. I'm going to take the Chargers. Joey Bosa, by the way, is active. There had been some question. He is good to go and in uniform with a hamstring injury. How about the Buccaneers? They went in last week to Minnesota and had a great second half and beat the Vikings. Today they are at home against the desperate Bears. We all have the Bucs in this one.
The Bucs have too much defense. I mean, for everything we want to question the Buccaneers about, it is still a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Todd Bowles gets off the bus blitzing. They are going to give Justin Fields a ton of looks, have him seeing ghosts, and they should smother this Bears offense.
Okay, Baker Mayfield, who played well, as I said, last week, especially in the second half, has never opened the season 2-0 as a starting quarterback. But if the Bucs were to do it today, it would be the third consecutive year they opened 2-0, because of that Tom Brady guy. That game kicking in a little bit at Raymond James. All right. Let's get back to the huge game in Jacksonville, also in Florida. This is a playoff rematch from a year ago. They actually met twice, the Chiefs and the Jaguars did. Very similar scores, 27-17 and 27-20. You've seen the Netflix show by now. You've seen behind the scenes how Mahomes didn't want to leave the game after getting hit here and having that ankle rolled up on. He eventually went to the locker room. He eventually would come back, however, and he would eventually, by now, lead the Chiefs to a victory at Arrowhead over the Jaguars. Here's a touchdown to the fourth quarter to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. The Chiefs go on to win it 27-20, but it sets up a great rematch today.
We worked so hard to get here, and nobody thought we were going to be here, and we had our shot, and that's what hurts, so we'll be back. I'm confident in that, and this is more the beginning than it is the end of something. This is just getting started for us, so we got a taste of it, and the guys are already hungry to get this opportunity again.
So this one's fascinating, Steve, today for the Jaguars for me, because I know they're a good team, right? I know they won a playoff game. They rallied from down 27-3 to beat the Chargers last year. But are they a championship caliber team? Or are they simply the best team in the AFC South?
Well, I think they're on their way. They'll find out. Again, this is a week 2 test. We'll see. I think it's also a big game for the Chiefs, right? They get Travis Kelce back. They get Chris Jones back. Look, they both played both times when the Chiefs and Jags played last year, so this is no mystery for the Jaguars. But Chris Jones is going to be the factor today. As Cynthia said earlier, he's timely with the plays he makes, whether it's in the fourth quarter, whether it's on 3rd and long, he shows up. We heard from our report from Cam Wolf. He's going to be on about a 30-play rotation since this is his season debut. He will be put in situations where he can make a difference, and I think his presence will be felt because the Jaguars' offensive line is banged up. They've got 2 starters who are nicked or not playing. So I think Chris Jones is going to show up timely, big spots today.
And they missed him. They badly missed him. The focus certainly from a fantasy perspective, was no Travis Kelce last week. The fact that Mahomes had to throw to 11 other guys and nobody, for the first time in Mahomes' career, had 50 yards receiving. But the lack of Chris Jones in the middle. We heard before Tom Pelissero in Detroit say David Montgomery is still the guy. David Montgomery and the Lions were able to exploit Jones not being there. Jacksonville doesn't have that same kind of power run game, and you mentioned the injuries to the O-line. This is a fascinating matchup today, and it is muggy with maybe some thunderstorms a little bit later, maybe, in Jacksonville. It is clear, however, in Cincinnati, much different than what Joe Burrow and the Bengals faced last week in Cleveland. Let's just call it what it is. Throw out the stats last week. Joe Burrow's worst game in the NFL last week, hands down. You can blame the injury. You can blame the lack of training camp. It was hands down his worst game. Every Sunday here on NFL Game Day Preview, we are going to make a Sunday statement, kind of like a bold prediction. Steve White, your Sunday statement is?
I thought you were going to Milli Vanilli, by the way, and you were going to blame it on the rain for Joe Burrow.
I mean,
got
if they want
you were
to.
hitting Taylor Swift earlier.
They're 0-2 every year.
Look, here's my Sunday statement, and this is Ryan Tannehill, and this is going to continue to be an issue. We saw him have 3 interceptions in week 1. I see multiple interceptions or multiple giveaways again today, and this is going to further the conversation about not just his long-term status in Tennessee, but his short-term status as the Titans starter.
All right, you heard Mike Vrabel frustrated. Let's put it that way on the podium. Is he ready to go to Malik Willis? I don't think so, but another performance like they had last week today for Ryan Tannehill, and we may be closer than we ever would have thought over the summer. My Sunday statement, I'm going to go Baker Mayfield. I'm going to say Baker Mayfield is 2-0 for the very first time in his career. Why? Because I think he played well enough in the second half last week to justify making this statement, and I think the Bears are in trouble. You listen to people in Chicago, they say it was the worst week 2 in any building they can ever remember.
That's not good.
All right, that was the game of like the last 5 years for the Bears, and they didn't just lose to their hated rival, the Packers. They played their worst game in 5 years, if that's possible.
Ooh.
NFL Game Day Preview. We're here noon Eastern every Sunday. For Steve Weitz and Cynthia and Florio, I'm Andrew. Goodbye.